got my first dirt bike at the age of 3, which is so crazy now because I see 3-year-olds and I'm like, holy cow, like how do you let a 3-year-old on a dirt bike, because
And so when you had your accident, did you think that, oh, this is temporary, or did it hit you right away that, I could be paralyzed forever?
if I would have just sat there and if I would have just done nothing, I probably would not be able to feed myself. I probably would not be able to move as well as I do. And I don't move great. Well, that's why, you look at America now and there's so many soft people. Like everybody's just so soft, and it's because nobody really goes through anything.
The kid who doesn't have ambition is due to their parents. This episode is sponsored by Black Label Meat. Black Label Meat only sells premium quality meat that is grass-fed, grass-finished, and they do regenerative grazing practices. Check them out now, blacklabelmeatcompany.com, and use the code Jesse for 10% off. Gavin Clouser, I'm excited that you're on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
I think that there are some things that you can speak on that's really going to bring the audience some value, because I feel like today we live in a culture of a kind of a victim mindset. Why me? And oftentimes it can be from someone who's literally gone through no adversity in their life. And you are someone who's gone through what many would believe is a huge you've had to overcome a huge obstacle in your life, being that you broke your neck at 14. It was you said C3, C4, C6,
C3,
C5.
C4, and C5 vertebrae, and I stretched and bruised my spinal cord.
Okay, that does
Yep.
not sound healthy. So you were racing motocross, probably top 5 in the country at the time. You were 14 years old, and expand a little bit on your racing career and then the accident.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, like growing up, my mom says basically from a year and a half, I just like saw motocross on TV and I was just hooked instantly. And then got my first dirt bike at the age of 3. Started riding, which is so crazy now because I see 3-year-olds and I'm like, holy cow! Like how do you let a 3-year-old on a dirt bike? Because they're just, I don't know, it's wild. But then yeah, I got into racing about 4, 5. First race in out at Stead, Nevada, and then basically from then on, I was just hooked, and every weekend became motocross. That was my whole life. Family revolved around motocross, and yeah, so you start racing the local races, and then it slowly turned into racing nationals, and just grew to love it, and started gaining sponsorships and started gaining a lot of exposure. And then yeah, I had my accident in 14, like right at the cusp of kind of blowing up in a way, I would say. I was riding for Live Fast, which is a clothing company here, and I was the first kid sponsored by Walmart, and we were gonna sign a contract with Suzuki later that year, and yeah, just right before I had my accident. So
All right. And so when you had your accident, did you think that, oh, this is temporary, or did it hit you right away that, I could be paralyzed forever?
I'll be honest with you, like no, at the beginning, yeah, I really did think it was going to be like a temporary thing, and I think it was actually kind of a good thing because it really kept me positive. The doctors in Reno when I first got hurt were great. Like I asked them, like, is there a chance for recovery? And the doctors, they wouldn't give me like a yeah, you're going to walk again, or no, you're not going to walk again. The one doctor always told me, it really depends on how hard you work, and the harder you work, the higher chance you have for recovery. So I really took that to heart of like, man, like before my injury, I was working out with Max, I forget, McManus or whatever his last name is, in
Mm-hmm.
Reno, and I worked out with him a lot. And it was just like, the harder you work, the better you get at motocross, the harder you work. Like my whole life was I drilled into me by my parents. It was just hard work pays, like that's kind of like my saying now is like hard work pays, never give up. But yeah, I thought it was going to be like 3 months out and I'd be back on the dirt bike and I'd race Mammoth or something. Like I had a lot of delusions, I guess, but kind of keeping that mindset at the beginning was really, really helpful. And then, like 2 months into it, I left Renown and they sent me to Sacramento to Shriners Hospital. And like the first day, it was like a gut check. Like we got there and they told my mom, like, he has a very low chance of ever even being able to feed himself, like being able to live. And it's like all this stuff hits us the very first day we're there. And like we just come from Renown and, everybody's there and telling me you're going to go, everything's going to be fine again. And then we get this gut check. And for the first little bit, it was really hard to like adjust. But then my parents, I got to give them so much credit because it was hard for them to hear that. But then like they just told me, they reminded me of what Renown was. It was like, and then seeing people, they would find people online to be like, hey, look at this dude. Like he was injured and then he's walking now, or he's doing this and he's doing that. Like you could do this. It's just all about staying positive and, working hard. So my parents really, really like were my support system through that and like kept me
Mm-hmm.
positive and kept me going. So, without them, it would have been very easy to fall into that trap of like, oh man, it's over, it's done. And I didn't really, I didn't lose the like, it's over, it's done until like 2 years into the injury. Like that whole, that whole time, it was more just like, I got to find therapy. I got to find the right place. Cause that was the reason I went to California in the first place, because Reno didn't have the specialized spinal cord therapy that they, at the time. Um, and so we were really like struggling to find places, and I was on Medicaid, so like I didn't have good insurance, and my parents aren't rich. Like, yeah, I raced motocross, and that was not like we were rich spending our money. It was more, debt. You just like living paycheck to paycheck every week. So we were really trying to find therapy, and then I got sent to Vegas trying to find the therapy, and I got the right places. But that whole time, like I wanted to find a place that was going to get me back to normal, because I really did feel like it was possible to get back. But then, like 2 years into it, I was like, okay, I'll probably never race again. But I was kind of like, all right, well, let's just figure out what's next. And, like that's a hard transition. But yeah, it was, I didn't really try to fall into that negativity. It's hard, but yeah.
So then at the 2 year mark, when you're like, okay, I'm not going to ride, to now take me from 2 year to like, we'll just say 5 year. Like, how was from year two to year five?
Well, I was lucky because then came high school. And so, like I was around friends, girls, stuff like that. Like it kind of distracts you from
Mm-hmm.
game. Like it's like, yeah, okay, motocross is over, but there's still more to life. So I was able to see that. And, like, I'll be honest with you, like the reason that I didn't go through these hard times of feeling down for myself or feeling bad for myself is seeing people that were worse off than me. Like when I was in Sacramento, I saw some people that were in really bad shape. People like kids. It was a burn hospital and a spinal cord injury hospital, so I saw kids burned from head to toe, and you'd hear them scream because they're getting their bandages taken off, and those are your roommates, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
that's rough when you're a kid, and like it's hard to feel sorry for yourself when you're around people that are suffering worse off than you. It's like
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I'm in the position that I'm in. That's kind of the stance that I took, and that my parents kind of instilled in me. Like, hey, it's bad, but like, look, it could be so much worse, and it could be. Like, I have friends that broke their neck on trampolines that they can't push themselves in a wheelchair. They can't. They're stuck in a wheelchair that they have to use with their mouth to breathe. Like they have like it's like a straw that moves them around, and so you see that, and I mean it's hard to feel bad for yourself when you see that. It's really really is. So luckily, I was able to like drill that into me and just keep going with staying positive. Like It's true. It could be way worse. My injury, it's bad. I can't move my fingers, can't use my hands the way that normal people can, or whatever you want to say is normal. But I've found a way to like adapt and to just figure it out. It's like, what else can you do?
So it makes me wonder, like, how we share this message, because how we started this off is I feel like there's a lot of people, especially men, who played victim. Why me? And they've had fucking no adversity in their life. Haven't
Yeah.
had anything bad in their life. Um, and it just, so it's things like that. How you were saying, like, I saw people who had it way worse. Even if we don't physically see someone who has it worse, we have to at least consciously be aware that in the world, people have it
Hmm.
way fucking worse. In the
Yeah.
United States, in the state of Nevada where we live,
Yep.
people still have it way worse.
Hmm.
So when we do come across something in our life that seems to be terrible, like what would you advise someone to, like, hey, just think about it this way, look at it this way. If the average Joe is like, oh man, my fucking life's going to shit, like, what would you tell them if you were just right there next
Dude,
to them?
there's kids in Europe that are at war, that are living in war zones.
Uh-huh.
There's kids starving out there. Like, if I would have broke my neck in another country, I might be dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was in, who knows? So that's the thing. Like I even tell my little brothers, like, man, you look at this situation over here. Like it's, you could go downtown, you could drive, you could see how gnarly some of the homeless people have it. Like how gnarly the situations are, how like their lives are just horrible. Like there's the podcast Soft White Underbelly. There's a guy who interviews people and they talk about being sexually assaulted as kids or molested, and like that's hard. That's hard. Like what I don't. Yeah, my injury's bad, but like I don't think it's worse than some of these situations. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to remind it to everybody, but I would just say like look at the world and just know that there's way worse situations you could be in. Way worse.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the fact that we're even in America, we're just so
Yeah.
blessed. You
Yes.
know,
Every day.
just
Very lucky.
yeah, so incredibly blessed. And then, so what? So it's been 12 years, and I guess how what is your scope on, I guess, hobbies? What you want to do with life? Being that 12 years, because 12 years ago you're like, I'm going to be pro. There's not going to be anyone named Jet Lawrence, because there's going to be Gavin Clouser,
Yeah.
you know. And then, but now, how do you look forward with what your goals are, what you want to do in life? Like, how does it change your thought process?
Well, yeah. So it's there's times where like, of course, everybody goes through the like feel sorry for themselves. I don't allow myself to have more than a day of feeling bad for myself, because like it's not healthy. So like if I have a day where I'm like, man, my dreams are basically ripped from me, or if I stumble across an old video of me racing or whatever, it's hard. But then like I found like my business. Like I pour a lot of energy into becoming. I took that motivation from like becoming the best motocross racer in the world, and I just turned that energy to like being like the best graphic designer in the world, or like being the best at my craft now, which is design and all that stuff. Like that. That's what I pour my energy into now, and that's what I put my focus into now. And it's also helpful with little brothers, like help them with their goals, and help them get reach where they want to go. So that transition, I mean, it was hard. Like I for a while, after high school, I think it was hardest, because it was like, okay, what do I do now? Because I wasn't growing up. Like I wanted to own a t-shirt company, and I like really loved looking at motocross graphics and skateboard stuff and whatnot. And so like maybe that design stuff was in my head, but after high school, I really didn't know what I was going to do. Like I wanted to go to school for business and I wanted to open up a business, but I didn't know what. And I spent like 2 years going for business school. And then once I found out, like, or once I discovered design, I was like, okay, I'm going to pour all my energy into that. So that transition of finding something of like what I love to do now, that helped. But
Hmm.
that transition after high school was like, oh man, what do I do? What's my purpose? Like, what am I here for? But yeah, so it was difficult, but
So when you say, "What is your purpose?" or "What are you here for?" Um, are you a believer in God?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I
So,
think some of the situations that I've been through with my family and like with this injury, like I don't think it's hard to get through it without God. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
or without a belief in God and without like having faith that someday may I'll be whole or someday that just some situations that worked out like the fact that my parents were able to come stay with me in the hospital for as long as they did and the fact that we were able to make ends meet and the fact that just finding therapy when we really needed it. Like I found a place in Utah. It's called Neuroworks, and it was a great facility because they had people in there that were way worse off than me, and they were able to get them back to health through walking and stuff. And we found that place, and I got to spend like 3 months there, and I made so much progress. But it was too expensive for us to stay there; it just wasn't feasible. But that finding that place and finding all the resources that we did and all the help that we did, I don't think you'd make it without God.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, dude, I agree. I try to walk with God and have Him involved in everything I do every single day.
Yeah.
Um, so, with the purpose, at 14, you thought your purpose was motocross.
Yeah. Absolutely.
After high school, you were unsure of your purpose.
Yeah. Completely lost.
Um, Now, today, how does your where does your purpose look like to you?
Man, I don't see. I read a lot of self help books sometimes, and I hear a lot. I see a lot of podcasts where people talk about purpose, and it's hard to quantify exactly
Mm,
what my purpose is. I think that I try to live by certain principles and values, and I think that like helps me guide my purpose. Like I want to be the best brother that I can possibly be. I want to be the best son that I could possibly be to support all my parents. Like whether it's just being a good son, like obeying them, whatever, like helping them out as much as I can. So like just being a good family member, that's very important to me. And then aside from that, it's just like trying to be the best version of myself every day that I can be. It's like my purpose is and then helping people, serving people in any way that I can. But like I just want to be better every day, be the best version of myself every day. Because if I'm the best version of myself, then I can serve the people around me. But if I'm not taking care of myself, or if I'm not doing what I need to do, then I'm not going to be able to help the people around me or be a good person to the people around me. So that's kind of like what I live by. That's like it's my mantra, I guess you say.
yeah, no, I think it's a good one,
Yeah,
and I think more men need to live that way. So you got your graphic design business.
yeah.
How did you really get ingrained into that?
Man, like I said, like growing up, I used to love looking at skateboard graphics and like T-shirts, and I always wanted to own a T-shirt company when I was growing up. And I loved to draw as a kid, and then once I got hurt, I was like, what can I really feasibly do? Like I'm in a wheelchair. I can't go work on them. Like do manual labor. So what am I going to do? And I got lucky in finding a video, or I don't even remember exactly what it was. Then I just started researching it and figuring out how to get into it, and then yeah, I decided to go to school for it, and went to school for it, graduated, and yeah, it was really, like it's just it's something that I can do that I actually love. There's very few things that I can do. I work out. That's a good thing that I can do. can't really make money working out. So like, yeah, after high school, I'm like, how can I make, if working out was a job, I could be a millionaire because I could work hard
Hmm.
physically. When people say like, you got to work hard, you got to work hard, it's like physically, it's like, no problem. I can work hard all you want. But like when it comes to like business, I struggle. Like, how do you, how do you work hard all day when there's like, no, you don't have clients coming in, stuff like that. Like that's when things get tough. So yeah, I don't know. I had to find something that I loved, and I had to find something that I could actually do. Once I found graphic design, like I said, I just went full force into it. Like read every book I possibly could on it, went to school for it, like practiced all the time. I draw all the time. I work really hard every day on it, and I take all the principles that I learned from motocross, and especially my injury. Like after my injury, if I would have just sat there and if I would have just done nothing, I probably would not be able to feed myself. I probably would not be able to move as well as I do. And I don't move great, but I move a lot better than I could,
Hmm.
if I would have just sat there. So, yeah, just had to find something. And then once I found it, I just went all full force into it.
And you contribute the not sitting there to the hope that it's like, oh, like you said, 90 days I'm gonna be back on my bike.
Yeah, exactly. Like I, I had just started getting like autograph signings and started doing like cool stuff, like as a motocross rider, things that you kind of you kind of just grow up and you hope that that's you someday. Like I remember going to supercrosses and seeing Ken Roxon and meeting Ken Roxon is just like, this guy's the coolest dude in the world. And I want to be that someday. And then, yeah, when you're laying there in a hospital bed and you don't really, I had hope that I was going to be back. I probably deep down knew that I probably would never race again. But the fact that I'm losing my train of thought here, but, where were we at again? Sorry. We were talking about,
Oh, we're talking about how you went from 90 days thinking you were going to be back
yeah,
riding
yeah. So just it was a tough transition, like
because you weren't sitting around, which allows you to be where you're at because you didn't just sit around because you had that
yeah,
mindset of
yeah,
90
exactly.
days.
So I just took the hope of like I just I wanted to ride again, and that was really like why I worked so hard, especially like in therapy and stuff, because I really did want to ride again. I really,
Hmm.
that's all I wanted to do. Even now, like I'm the first 3 months of my injury, I mean, the first year of my injury, I swear every morning or every night I was woken up to a dream of like I was riding with Trey Kennard or I was riding with some famous dude, and then I'm like
Hmm.
waking up and I'm like, this is a nightmare, like stuck in a halo and mouth dry from all the medicine that I'm on, and like so I always every day that I woke up I was like, man, I got to get back, like this, I got to get
Hmm.
out of this situation, like this is a freaking real nightmare, like you know what I mean, like it's bad. So yeah, I just took that motivation into therapy every single day. Like I don't think there's a therapist that will talk to you that will say that. And I don't want to toot my own horn a little bit, but at the same time, like I don't think there's a therapist that will talk to you and tell you that I didn't work my ass off every day, because that's every single day that I went to therapy. I put in as much time as possible. Like in Vegas. So I was sent to Vegas after California, and I spent about 4 months there, and they had an open therapy room that you could use 24/7. Like after the therapist went home and there was nobody else doing it, you were literally allowed to go down there and do whatever you wanted. And I'd go down there with my dad and put my hands on the bike, and I'd ride the bike for like 45 minutes, or like I would do anything that I could just to get back. And it was all at the beginning, yeah, it was like the hope of riding again, and then now
Hmm.
it's just like just the hope of getting a little bit better every day. Like I know I'm probably never gonna walk again, like in this lifetime. But maybe like science, there's a lot of stuff going on, so I can't really say that. There's like Neuralink and all this crazy stuff going
Hmm.
with science and stuff. But without that, do I think I'm ever gonna walk in? Maybe not. But do I think that working, like I could still work really hard to try to make as much progress as I can? So
Hmm.
and motocross is still. I mean, there's still a part of me that's like, man, just want to get back just one more time, you know? I don't even
Yeah.
want to hit a jump. I don't even want to hit a jump. I just want to hit corners. Like, I want to do the stupid stuff that my dad would yell at me for back in the day, you know, like doing figure eights and just stand up for 10 laps in a row. And like, you're like, why? I hate this. But, you know, you got to do it. So,
Yeah. Maybe rally car.
you, and that would, you know, yeah, yeah, exactly. That'd be awesome. Anything
Yeah.
like that. Side by
The,
side, go
yeah.
karts,
The
anything.
nitro cross circuit.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this is, I think this is good for people here because I'm sure people have heard of people who've been paralyzed from an accident,
Yeah.
but it's about how many times do we actually get to listen to how they've kind of overcome that adversity. And I look at it, adversity is like such a good thing. It's like a tool that you have in your pocket that no one else has.
Mm-hmm.
And we can look at it culturally as something that benefits us and we can use it in some sort of gain or something that's going to hold us back and it's our crutch.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I mean, you look at America now and there's so many soft people. Like, everybody's just so soft. And it's because nobody really goes through anything. Like, there's no people in Ukraine or Russia. They're not complaining about the stuff that these people complain about nowadays. Like,
Mm-hmm.
things that are problems to them, which are really, they're not problems. If people had real issues, like if we were getting attacked tomorrow by Russia or whatever, like any country, and we were getting bombed, I think all the stupid issues that people care about would go out the window, and people would be a lot more like thankful for what we had, and you know, they'd be like, what's that saying? Hard times make hard men make easy times. Easy time
Easy
makes
times make soft
soft
men.
men
Yeah.
make hard times, whatever. And
Yeah.
it's a cycle, and we're living in the soft men era. Like, it's not just soft men; it's soft people in general. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, and so yeah, like, like you said, adversity is really a good thing. It sucks in the moment, you know. It's like, how am I going to get through this? Blah blah. But it makes you resilient. Like, uh, I love that guy. He's a singer, Oliver Anthony. He's got this new song, and it's like, it's just like hard. It's just basically talking about people that go through hard times are going to make it to the other side. People that don't, you know, they're going to fold, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look up that song. I haven't heard it.
It's called "Mama's Been Hurting." I've been listening to it so much lately. It's just like stuck in my head.
Yeah. I'm going to have to
It's
write that
great.
one down.
It's great.
Um, so yeah, I guess let's dive in some more. Let's say you were to see a kid, whether let's say he was playing football and broke his neck, or
Mm-hmm.
racing motocross and broke his neck, fell out of a fucking tree,
Mm-hmm.
broke his neck, and they wheeled you down there on day one to kind of coach this kid through what he's going to expect.
Yeah.
Like, how do you help that kid so he doesn't end up the kid who just sits there in his own piss and shit the rest of his life because he can't do anything because he got so down, versus the guy like you who it's like, because of my hard work and my positive mindset, I'm where I am today and can do
Yeah.
more than they said I was going to do. Like, so how do you start coaching him through that?
Man, I would probably start it out exactly how you said.
Mm.
Like, nobody gets anywhere. Like, okay, I love the saying that's like, whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty much true. Like, if you look at anything in the world, I mean, if you think you can't do it, or if you think you're not going to be successful or whatever, you're probably not going to be successful. Um, so you got to have that belief. But I mean, it's hard because some people can't take it. You know, like, they're shattered from day one. Like, I've had a couple friends that I've gone to see, like, after their injuries, and I've tried to, you know, hey man, like, and I've tried to stay in contact with them, but a lot of people, they just can't make it through. And you know, you tell them like, hey, it's the hard work, positivity, stuff like that, and it kind of they kind of look at you and they're like, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say it's like, because you're better off than me or whatever. And it's like, well, dude, I was in the same situation. Like, I wasn't always able to move my arms. You know, like, I couldn't move my arms for 2 months. Like, just getting arm movement back was a struggle. it used to feel like 20 pounds just to curl my arm in a chair. Like it felt like I was lifting heavy weight. And now, obviously I can lift weights and stuff, and I can put my arms over my head, like all the stuff that I was told I was never going to do.
Hmm.
So coaching a kid, it's tough because it just depends on the person. But like, yeah, I would tell them, man, you're going to go through some tough times. Like it's not always easy. Like at the beginning, being hurt in Reno, it was so easy because I had 50 friends at the hospital every day. Like they had to turn people away at the hospital because there was just so many people every day coming to see me. And just having all those people, it was a distraction. It was just like every night, it was almost like my hotel or my hospital room just felt like a party. Like there was at least 10 people in there, and it was wild. But it was a good distraction. And then you go to California, and then you get like one or two people a week, and then you're like,
Hmm.
oh man, like, and then it starts settling in, like, okay, this is my reality. And then you go to Vegas, and there's no friends because you're 8 hours away for 4 months, and so you don't really talk to anybody. And then you have to become comfortable being alone a little bit. You have to be self motivated. Like there's a lot of things that you can't. It's not like I said. It's not easy. You have to be motivated to get better too, because a lot of people, they immediately just give up, and it doesn't matter what you tell them. I mean, how many people could you tell right now, like, hey, if you start lifting weights, your life's gonna be better. Or, hey, if you start eating healthy, your life's gonna be better. And yeah, I'll
And they
think
don't.
about it. Or yeah, I'll do that. And then the next day comes, and it's back to doing the same old stuff, and it goes in one ear out the other. Like when you told me about Instagram reels and stuff, I was like, oh yeah, I got to get on that. It's like I do it every day. I'm like filming and trying to post at least 3 times a week now. Like anything that somebody tells me, I'm going to try to implement it if I think it's going to really benefit me. But so it really depends on the person, because if you, how many people do you meet? You talk to them and tell them something that, hey, it's going to benefit
Hmm.
you, and it's like, okay, I'll think about that.
So, do you think that is something that's just ingrained in your DNA, or had something to do with how your parents raised you, or some sort of father figure, your
It,
dad?
it, it's totally 100% to do with sports. I mean, yeah, my dad and my mom, like, it was not, I mean, my house is not a feel sorry for you house, like, my parents don't give me sympathy, like, oh, well, like, they don't expect me to be less of a person because I'm in a wheelchair, or they don't expect me, they're going to get on me the same way that they would if I was normal, if I got bad grades or whatever. But growing up, it was the same way. It was just like, there's no feeling sorry for you. Like, you have to work hard for what you want in life. And that's just how it has always been growing up. Like my parents, I hated them growing up. Nah, I didn't really hate them, but you know what I mean? Like, you're just like, oh, I hate you. Like, why do you got to be so hard on me? But it raises you into being the person you are. And especially the sport of motocross, like
Hmm.
it's not a, it's not a feel sorry for you sport. Like, you're going to get hurt.
Hmm.
You have to, every time you get on the line and you're going to go race, you have to be prepared with that risk of, like, I could break my neck, I could die. And I've had friends die. Like, I mean, the last Jesse Masterful, who growing up was really close to my family and one of my best friends, and that crushed me. But you still put on a helmet. Like, the day I found out that he died, I was at a racetrack, and we still ended up racing. So it's like, the risks, and it makes you it makes you a more resilient person, and it makes you, like, understand that life's hard and that you're going to go through tough times, but how you handle it is how you're going to make it through. Like, going to a racetrack, the track's going to suck probably, and it's going to be rough, and it's going to get beat up, and you're going to be a little bit scared to hit this jump, and you're going to be scared to hit that jump. But you have no other option. This is what you want to do, right? So you're forced to do it. That's just how it is. And I think that's, I mean, my injury, you're like, what else am I going to do? People always ask me, like, I always hear this, like, how do you stay positive? Or like, I mean, you asked me that at the beginning, but it's different for a podcast. But like, when we're in person, it's like, how do you stay positive? It's like, dude, I have no other choice. Like,
Yeah.
I have two options. I could sit there, feel sorry for myself, and do nothing with my life, or I could go, like, dude, I'm alive. Like that. that's something that I'm super grateful for. It's just being alive. Like I have little brothers, and if I would have died and never got to see them grow up to be how great they are as in their sports and just like becoming the men that they're becoming, like it would crush me. You know, like if I was in heaven and watching it, and I'm looking down on them, I'd be absolutely crushed. So to look at it now, I'm like, dude, I have life. I have the opportunity to build something. I have an opportunity to keep going. Like, what else am I gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
There's two options, so pick one.
Dude, I love it. I mean, with the motocross thing, I remember my dad yelling at me because I
Yeah,
wasn't jumping a jump, and I was like, "Well, I don't like how the berm is." He's
yeah,
like, "Do you expect us to come out during the race and fix the berm for Jesse?"
yeah, yeah. I mean, my
And it
my
was
dad.
like,
My dad,
"Oh,
I always talk about this story, and I probably even told you about this story, but it sticks out so much because we went to a racetrack and there was this big jump, and there was only me and one other kid who was like one of my really, really good friends. And I'm like, dude, don't hit this jump. I don't want to hit it, okay? Like, I'm terrified to hit it. I don't want to do it. And he's like, okay, well, I won't. Because I knew it was only me and him that were going to be able to do it. For first practice, goes out and hits the jump, and I get off the track, and I'm feeling good about myself, you know, thinking that I rode really good during practice. And I get back to the pit, and immediately, like, he's pissed. He's like, if you don't hit that jump first lap next time, we're packing up heading home. And then you're like, oh no, like you're just terrified. And then you hit it, and then you're like, dude, I can overcome it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so racing motocross, that's another thing as well. Like jumps, dude, how scared I've been for hitting a jump is insane. Some of the jumps that I've hit, and I didn't want to do it. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. This is scary. I don't even want to be here. Why am I racing motocross? Why did I choose this? I don't want to do this anymore. And then you go out and you hit it, and you're like, oh, okay. And then the rest of the day is easy, you know. Like, and then you feel like, okay, I could do it, and then you feel good about yourself the whole day. So
oh yeah,
yeah, and then every time you go back to the track, and you're like, oh, I hit that jump now, you feel amazing. So, and then that just applies to life. That just all those little lessons, everything that he taught me, everything that my mom taught me, everything, you know, it applies to life. So,
no, that is good. Yeah, the whole hitting jumps, dude. I remember waiting to hit the big jump till like the first lap of the first motor, not even doing it in
yeah,
practice because it's like, I mean, I don't have to do it in practice,
yeah,
even
yeah.
though probably should have. Yeah, and it's
I
like,
feel
man,
you.
everyone else is doing it. I don't want to have to hit it. And then
Or
you
then
get
you
the
go to
whole
arena
shot.
cross. Yeah, and then you go to
Yeah,
arena cross and you're like on this little track with all these sharp jumps, and you don't really practice arena cross growing up because I mean most tracks are just motocross tracks. And then you're throwing on this track and they give you like 5 laps of practice. And then they throw you into a race in front of 5,000, 10,000 people cheering in this, and you're just got all these nerves and you're like just so nervous. And then you have to hit them. You have to do it. So
dude,
yeah,
I hated arena cross as much as I wanted to be good at arena cross
yeah, for
and
sure.
never practicing arena cross
Yeah.
and not even realizing changing like my gear setup for arena cross. I didn't realize that till like later. Like,
Suspend. Yeah, you just show up when
and
you're
it's
an amateur.
just,
You just show up with what you got, and you just hope for the best.
yeah. And it was like, man, if I were to go pro, I would just be that dude who's the opposite of McGrath. I would only race motocross.
Yeah.
It's wilder, faster.
Yep.
Freaking, I feel like that's the one that like shows the men amongst the boys because Supercross was like pretty. It was like clean. You weren't
Yeah.
getting dirty. It was just
Yep.
like nice little rhythms.
Shiny
Um,
bikes.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys would crash, but in the whoop sections,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
statistically, everyone crashes in the whoop sections versus rhythm sections.
Yep. But
Motocross, it could
also,
be
and then,
fucking
and
anywhere.
yeah, and you look at motocross also, and it's like it seems like it's safer, but that's like where people get hurt the worst because you're just so fast and so wide open.
Yeah,
But it just doesn't seem like that because
there's so many more variables.
yeah, the ruts.
Yeah,
It's gnarly.
ruts, braking bumps,
Yep.
how much the tracks change. I loved motocross, um, and
Absolutely.
shoot, I still want to. I want to get my boys into motocross. I wouldn't
I
mind
mean,
making a
yeah, I love
comeback.
it. I love it so much now. Like before, I mean, after my injury, man, I didn't watch motocross much. I would watch a little bit here and there, but it was really it was hard for me, like, because like you said, like I want there wouldn't, in my mind as a 14-year-old, it's like I wanted to be the Supercross champ. I wanted to be there where these guys are, and that's taken from you. And watching motocross, it was really really hard. And I just started watching it like the last 2 3 years, and being able to like not have those feelings of like, damn, I could be there, So I
Hmm.
love it now. It's awesome.
No, that is good. Yeah, it is. I mean, there is an aspect of us having to overcome things. I remember even like 4 years ago telling a buddy about how I was like training. I thought I was going to be fucking a UFC champion, because I knew I wasn't going to make it in football or motocross because I didn't train. I didn't practice. I would skip football practices. And when it came to racing motocross, I just thought I was so good that I
Yeah.
wouldn't even practice during the week and I'd show up at like Mammoth and expect to like win. So I always knew that I wasn't putting in the effort.
Yeah.
But then when I was training for MMA, I was training twice a day, every fucking day. On my birthday, I would be like, I want to spar.
Yeah.
And then when I tore my labrum and all that went away, and then I finally got it back, and then I tore my hip flexor and like right after, and it's like there must be some reason why I shouldn't fight. And I remember again 4 years ago telling a buddy about it while we're hunting, doing an archery hunt, and I started like tearing up in the mountains because it was like I wasn't over the fact that I didn't make it.
Hmm.
It was like, why?
Yeah. And
Now I'm like, obviously there's fucking nothing I am gonna do about it now. And it
yeah.
but it's one thing when you know that you weren't putting in the work, like how I wasn't putting in the work for motocross or football. It's another thing when you feel like you're giving it all, like
Yeah.
how you are constantly
But
training.
even now, like I don't. When I look back and I think about like putting in the work, I could have put in so much work, and I look back and I'm like, man, I could have been better here. Could have been three
Hmm.
seconds faster here. And like seeing my little brother humbles me a lot because that kid, I've never seen a kid work so hard in his life, like because his thing is jujitsu and wrestling, and
Hmm.
it's an everyday thing pretty much. Like we force him to take off the weekends because he just wants to. He's like, oh yeah, I'll go roll. Yeah, I want to roll. I want to do that. And I'm like, dude, you need to take a break. Like you're gonna freaking burn yourself out. And he's fully dedicated. He's all the way in on it, and it humbles me when I look back on myself because I'm like, damn, dude, like was I really a badass or like he's really a badass? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But no, and then you can help foster that and
yeah,
like be that sense of guidance,
yeah, for
especially when your
sure.
parents are at work,
Hmm. For
and
sure.
talking to him about it and the mindset and being that guy in his corner to push him and keep him going.
Yeah, like if as long as your goal is to be the best at something, or like if you really want to be I asked him, like like I asked him 2 years ago when he was like a year into jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, what's your goal with jiu-jitsu? And he said, I want to be the best. And I was like, okay, well if you really want that, then we'll do everything we can to foster that. But and it the way that my parents raised him, like there are no free rides. If you don't put the work in, like, you're not going to a competition. And that kid, I'm telling you, he's like a machine, dude. It's insane. It blows my mind, kind of.
And how old is Brody right now?
Brody's 13. Yeah, 13.
13. Okay.
13. Yeah, and like the level of discipline they has as a 13-year-old is like crazy. When I was 13, I'm not gonna diet. I'm not gonna eat clean. I'm not gonna go to bed on time every night or like, all the stuff that he does. It just kind of it's wild. It really is kind of wild.
See, when I
And
was 13, I thought I was so good at everything that I didn't need to practice.
yeah,
Whether it
right. I
was
mean,
football or motocross, it was like, why
yeah.
would I practice? I'm better than everybody.
I see, but I think that's like where our parents check us big time because like growing up, it
Hmm.
was like, oh, you think you're that good? Like, really? Okay, let's see. And it's like they would always. I mean, they always put us in our place. Like, be humble. Like that's the thing. Be humble because if you're not humble, man, like there's somebody out there that's working twice as hard as you and he's quiet.
Hmm.
You don't hear
Yeah.
about him. Or even if he, like, okay, Hayden Deegan, just to bring him up, because that kid's a straight up just animal. But he can talk the talk, but the kid works harder than everybody, and it shows. It shows how hard
Hmm.
he works, and it shows. And for being a rich kid too, like everybody, oh, he doesn't have adversity. Like like we're talking about, we don't know what he's gone through, but something happened to that kid to where something in his life has pushed him to where he is, and yeah, he's amazing. So
Yeah, I really want to have Brian Deegan on
yeah,
because it's like,
because he's
how did you accomplish everything you did, and then so far two of your kids, Haley,
yeah.
everything that she's done in motorsports, and now Hayden.
Yeah,
Like,
and
what is it?
what's the
Yeah.
stereotype about rich kids? They're soft, they
Hmm.
quit, they fumble, like they don't have the heart or whatever. Those kids, I mean, and then you look at Hudson, and maybe that shows a little bit of like, hey, you're the baby and the rich kid, and so maybe that's why he's not as successful in a sport or whatever. But his kids are dedicated, and I think it's also like something that I've taken from my parents as well. Like if I ever have the chance to have kids, which I hope I do, but if I ever have kids, putting everything into your kids and like just their passions become their passions. Like if
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what my family, any of their kids wanted to do. If I wanted to go, I don't know, color rocks or whatever, if I wanted to be the best rock color or whatever, they would have, given me every opportunity to be the best of that, or they would have fostered every opportunity to get me there. And like, that's something that I will always take. Like, if you pour everything into your kids, they become, good people. They
Yeah,
work
and I
hard.
think I'm assuming that's something that Brian Deegan would say because he has two kids who have reached the pinnacle of like their sports.
Yep.
Um, their oldest and then the second oldest, and they're fucking just crushing it
Absolute, dude.
because they are
Insane.
pouring everything into them, and it's what I try to do with my sons. I mean, one of them he's under 4, but the other one who is older, it's like we homeschool him. He does golf once a week. He does gymnastics once a week.
Yeah.
He wrestles anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, and he plays football at, during the week. So he does
Yep.
all of that during the week, and people are like, "That's so crazy." It's like, well, I don't have a traditional 9 to 5. My wife stays home. We homeschool him, so it's not that much.
Yeah.
One and two, he's been obsessed with football, fucking obsessed, and I never even showed him what football was. He never watched football with me. I never bought a football. I didn't want to live vicariously through him when it came to
Yeah.
football. And this kid discovered football at a basketball gym because people were playing football after. And he's like, what's that? And now he's obsessed. And it's like, dude, we can do whatever you want around football, practice as much as
Yeah.
you want if
But as
that's
a
what you
parent,
want to do.
don't you just take so much pride seeing your kid work hard towards a goal and like accomplish something, and don't you take pride in that?
Dude, yeah, he went and ran 2 laps this morning
Yeah.
but while I was gone. My
Right.
wife was like, dude, he went and ran 2 laps this morning. And I was
That's
like,
awesome.
really? And she's
Wow.
like, yeah. Because if he is a jerk to his brother or doesn't listen, I make him run. I'm like, just go run.
Yeah.
Just go run X amount of laps. And then the little shit will just do it on his own. And it's like, all right, well, I don't know if it's punishment or not, but yeah, he'll do it. And you'll go out there
It's a
and
healthy
you'll see
punishment.
him, and he'll just be running them hard too. Not
Yeah.
like half assing it, just fucking running. And it's so cool to watch versus I've known people growing up who had a passion for like music
Yeah.
or this or that, and their parents are like, no, you need to do this. And it's like, that's fucking weird to
Well,
me.
how many parents? I don't know if you know this, but like, how many parents do you know that their kids don't do any sports? Which that's fine. Your kid doesn't have to be a freaking top star athlete or whatever, but they literally just they're content with their kid just playing on an iPad and playing on electronics all day, and that's
Hmm.
literally all they do.
Yeah.
And and then you expect your kid to be successful when they're older. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. No, the math doesn't add up.
Yeah, you have to. I think you have to put your. I think kids have to be pushed and they have to be directed in the right direction. Like they're just not going to make it otherwise.
No, I'm a big believer, and they wanna try motocross, both of them. So it's like, all right. I told them for Christmas I'll get them bikes, and they'll even ask like, well, how do we get them before Christmas? And it's like,
Yeah,
well, we're gonna wait till Christmas, bud.
yeah.
Um, and I'll get you guys some bikes, and we'll see what happens, whether they're like into it or not into it. Because I had cousins who my uncle bought them dirt bikes, and they weren't really that into it.
Yeah,
And I don't know why they weren't that into it. To me, it's crazy not to be into it because I was so into it and just how much
yeah.
fun. But who knows? But yeah, right now my son, he is obsessed with football. He just wants to play football, football, football.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
all you could ask for, because like again, you could have a kid that doesn't have any ambition, and it's like that would be terrible.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think a lot of it, I think the kid who doesn't have ambition is due to their parents, because
Absolutely.
every kid starts off with ambition in something
Hmm.
or another, and
Yeah,
it's the parents who stifle that.
yeah. And now with, I mean, man, with electronics, it's like really scary when everybody's just addicted to a phone. Nobody can have a conversation anymore. It's just like
Hmm.
phone, phone, phone. I do not understand it. It's one of the things that like just gets me. It just pisses me off so bad because so many parents just, here's your iPad, here's your electronic, like take it, like then their kids, they wonder why their kids have behavioral issues. They wonder why their kid doesn't want to do anything. It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
they have everything right there in front of them all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, probably seen it. Some of the younger kids at wrestling, they're
yeah,
on just the iPads while their sibling is wrestling,
yep.
and then all the parents are on their phones too while their kids are wrestling.
Yeah, they don't even pay attention. Like, I mean, go to a jujitsu gym, same thing. Parents are just there on the phone.
Hmm.
It's like, well, what do you have a conversation with, dude? Like, I think that's why a lot of kids lose passion in the sport as well. Like, you don't have to be on. You could be like, hey, have a conversation with them about how practice was. Like, hey, what'd you learn? Like, was that
Hmm.
fun? Like whatever. Instead of just fully paying attention to the phone the whole time and not even paying. I think kids sense it too. Like they feel it. They feel that. They feel that you're
They
not
do,
just there.
and they
They
look up every now and then. They get a good double
yep.
leg. They fucking dump a kid. They're looking, and then they
Yeah,
realize that their parents are just looking at their phone.
yeah, and then it's like, well, I'm competing with the phone. I'll never be good
Hmm.
as I'll never be as good as the phone. You're sending your kid a horrible message. you know
Hmm.
it's like
Yeah,
you hang out with families and one person's just on the phone the whole time, just kills everything. They can't even have a conversation because is the phone really that important that you just can't have a conversation for 5-10 minutes? Just, I don't know, I hate it. It's one of the things that just, man, it irks me.
no, it. I agree. When I go hunting, I just tell everyone I don't have service, and my wife's like, "How am I going to get a hold of you?" I'm like, half the point of me being out there is so nobody can get a hold of me."
Yeah, it's like a reset. It's got to be such a good reset for you too,
Yeah.
because like a couple weeks ago, I completely was like, I'm detoxing from social media for like 2 weeks, and mentally I just felt so much clearer, and I just felt so I felt light, and then
Hmm.
I re-downloaded it on my phone and I opened it up, and like the very first thing I'm like, why am I even on this? Like, you just feel I just felt like the weight of it back on me, like, but you got to play the game, like you said,
Yeah,
you got to play
in
the
in a
game.
perfect world, I would only be on social media when I was posting for work,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
then you start to scroll,
And then it catches you.
and
Yeah,
that's the part where it's
you
like,
get to
fuck.
those reels, dude, and then an hour goes
Yeah,
by and oh my gosh, I feel you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Gavin, this was freaking awesome, dude. I'm glad we were able to talk,
nah, thanks, man. Thank you for having me
hop
on. It
on the
was
podcast.
freaking awesome. Yeah, it
So,
was
wait, really quick, talk more about your business,
okay. Um,
of what you're doing, where you're doing it, where people can find you, even
yeah,
if
so
it
you
takes ten minutes.
okay. Well, you can find me on my website at clouserdesign.com. I love working with brands, building brand identities, rebranding, make just helping companies amplify their message through design. That's like my favorite thing. Marketing, advertising, whatever, just anything that has to do with building brands, building business. I love it. You can find me on my Instagram, Gavin Clouser _ Um, yeah, and if you want to connect, follow me, whatever you want to work with me, website, all good. I'm down.